Hey, what is up guys, the Strong Boys 19 here, and this is the next album review for the Iron Maiden discography. And since that I had reviewed the debut first album a few days ago, it's time to come back and listen to the Paul Di'Anno period for the last time and review album number 2, entitled Killers. Now, Killers was released in 1981, and this is the beginning of something very different and later on special in terms of the style, the sound and the production for the reputation for Iron Maiden to come. This is the last of the last for Paul Di'Anno, because after the release of this album and the tours, he was fired afterwards due to his addictions to cocaine and alcohol. But to leave his role behind with an album like this, I think he just nailed it, because it's just an album that was very important to him from his entire career as a full-time musician, like the first album in a way. But I think with Killers there was some things that were different into what was going on in the songwriting from Steve Harris. This album was produced for the first time by Martin Birch, who would later produce a lot of Maiden's albums from this album to 1992's Sphere of the Dark. And this is the first as well to have Adrian Smith to replace Dennis Stratton from the previous album, because he had to let go from the guys due to creative differences from his writing and contributions as a guitar player. But I think that Adrian Smith, definitely a very, very good replacement for Dennis. And I did like Dennis's role, but Adrian to work with Murray for the first time just brings the sound up in a better direction, in my opinion, for the sound of the band as a whole. So the songwriting for this record is like the first album in a way. Most of the songs on this album are faster, insane, and powerful, and with musicianship that was just top notch. And I really did think that the first album is near perfection. That's how much I really liked that album very, very much. I love almost every song on that record, but there are some tracks on this record that I'll get to in a minute that are one of my big favourites. The album opens up with the Ides of March, so there are 2 instrumentals on this album, this one and the instrumental of Genghis Khan. And the Ides of March is a very, very good instrumental piece that's less than 2 minutes, remains as the shortest Maiden song to date, and I really like the sound of the twin guitar harmonies that worked perfectly right from the start. And it brings into the second track, Wrathchild, which is one of my favourites in the early repertoire with Paul Di'Anno. It is fantastic. It has a very groovy and menacingly quick energy to it, with blazing guitar solos. I mean, the guitar solos from Smith and Murray together just shows the two together at a very comfortable pace. Clive Burr's drumming, his drumming has been very, very great on this record, and with one of them being Genghis Khan, and also one of the faster tracks, especially with Another Life, which is one of my favourites, with incredible guitar playing from their dexterity between Murray and Smith. Prodigal Son. This track, involving another track called Murders in the Rue Morgue, they were written before the development of the first album, believe it or not. But Prodigal Son, in my eyes, the ballad on this album. It has acoustic guitars involved with some really good vocal passages from Paul's vocals, and it's just one of the best tracks on the whole album. Murders in the Rue Morgue, taken from Edgar Allan Poe's story of the same name, is definitely really, really good, with some slow, clean guitar introductions, but just goes into non-stop, energetic, punky style, fast riffage. And Purgatory, one of the singles, is one of my favourites as well. It's powerful right from the start, with insane structures, and is one of the classics in the repertoire. Twilight Zone is one of the songs that was co-written between Harris and Di'Anno. Bit of a hard-rocking sound, but with effective playing. And Paul Di'Anno's vocals on this record are very, very strong on this album. Because when you listen to his vocals on the previous album, they were more raw, but his vocals to Killers go from mid-register to higher noted registers, and that he had been massively building himself up and improving his vocals a lot just for this album, and it just shows in a very good way. Some of the tracks to me are one of my least favourites, although that they are good, but I just don't have a stronger connection and feel with them like the ones that are one of my favourites, and they are Innocent Exile, the title track, and Drifter. And Drifter, for me as a closing track, is good, but I think Iron Maiden from the last album is a stronger one at that. With that being said, the production from Martin Birch, I love the sound of the drums that were clearer and it gives it more punch from Clive's drumming, and the guitar sound is awesome. And I would have to say that Killers still contains some of the highlights in the early songwriting stages from Steve Harris, and he did another amazing job. Now, to compare which album I prefer more, it's still the first album, as I said earlier, but this album still has, without a doubt, some of the thrilling and exciting tracks in this direction for Iron Maiden. And let me know what you think of this record in the comments below. It's a very good album from start to finish, just one of my favourites overall. So I'm going to give Killers by Iron Maiden a solid 9 out of 10. And that is all I have to say for this record, and I will later on do my reviews in the golden period for Iron Maiden with Bruce Dickinson from The Number of the Beast to onwards really soon. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll keep you guys posted for more videos in the near future.